Welcome to Edge Grid Podcast, episode number 9?
8.
8? Are you
9.
sure it was 8? Wasn't it 8 last time?
There's so many we lost count.
Okay. I think it's
Like,
Yeah, that's getting pretty high. We're almost ready to run out of fingers.
you know,
and that's when we lose track with the math.
You know, depending what series you ride, you probably ran out of fingers already.
I was about to say, most of us road racers only have 9 to 8 maximum.
and 9 to 8 toes as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So today we have the legendary Jeremy Toye, which is not only a short circuit racer, but he's one of those, I don't want to say, a little bit, crazy guys that do how should we call it? Isle of Man, Macau, those are street races, right? Or
yeah. Closed street circuits.
Closed street circuits. Yeah, I mean...
And stop discriminating against short people, please.
Yeah, nothing against short people, Nabil.
I feel offended.
Okay, all right. Just let me know when you need to change a light bulb. So usually when you go on a racetrack, you got, corner workers, air fences, runoffs. When you go on the Isle of Man, you got someone's backyard, dogs, windows, and all kinds of things that
cobblestone walls,
and all sorts of things that are not going to be nice to you when you slide at 200 miles an hour into them. So your bio is this: you're a professional tester for Road Racing World, and I usually read those little tiny boxes in Road Racing World every time they have a road test. And then they go like, oh, our really fast guy, Jeremy Toye, said the bike, is doing this and that. And that way I know it's real. It's actually behaving the way you say it's behaving. And then you start racing the late 1990s. You have top 10 finishes in AMA Pro Superbike 2004, 2005. Yeah, top 5 finishes, AMA Pro Racing, fastest newcomer at the Isle of Man TT in 2006. So you basically went over there and you just went like, let me show you how it's done. I never been here. I never rode here before. I don't live here like most of the racers. And here you go. This is how you do it, guys. That's how it happened.
Yeah, close enough. They being American, obviously you're a foreigner from there, but it's even being more foreign because you're Irish and you're British. They're all about it. Americans, we need some runoff and air fence, so it's even rare for a couple of us, the Mark Millers and the other guys, Rennie, that went over last year. It's rare for us guys to go over.
And you also finished third at Macau, earning a podium in 2010. And you were the first American to podium in the event in 10 years. So it was the same with Macau. You went in there and you went like, yeah, let me show you guys how it's done.
Yeah, that one I actually had a couple rounds. Like I had been going to that one for a couple races, and strictly because it's probably one of my favorites. It's a mass start. Not only is it a street race, but it's a mass start. Isle of Man, you're out there for, depending what race you're in, you could be out there for 2 hours and not see a single bike except for in the pits. You're by yourself. Where Macau, you start off with 30 other knuckleheads all charging into turn one, and it's intense. Like it's definitely a fun race.
I remember watching Macau before I even started racing, and the first thing I saw is someone, I don't want to, it's not nice to talk about it with someone just went into a wall and that was it for him, and that was my first introduction to the Macau Grand Prix, and I said, okay, who's crazy enough to do this? But
yeah,
obviously,
yeah, well,
some people.
You try to set some guidelines for yourself, and on these particular races, my guideline was real simple: don't crash. You know, easier said than done, but yeah. And what's funny is when you say that about Macau, it actually has a very, very good track record uh, for not having for anything really bad going on. Where obviously Isle of Man is quite different. Where I had raced Macau probably I think like 6 times, and then got invited to Isle of Man, and the organizers from Macau, which actually the main organizer lives at Isle of Man, tried to get me not to go to the TT because it's that dangerous. So it was like, a lot of second guessing there, but it's one of those bucket list things you got to try.
Look, you're talking about a race where they bring body bags just in case, and
Yeah. Oh,
it,
it's standard. I mean,
yeah.
I could tell you plenty of stories. I mean, my first time at TT during practice week, we went out for the first practice, and I came back, and my teammate that I was in the tent with, this is my first interaction of this whole place. My teammate that was in the tent never came back. And I was just like, what in the hell? And me and I had taken two of my mechanics over. I rode for a mixed base team, and I took two of my mechanics over. I had a couple of US media guys, and then the rest of them were Irish and British support for the team. And me and the other Americans are looking at each other like, what in the fuck did we get ourselves into? Like, this is crazy. And everybody else there, it's a different mindset. So yeah, we definitely view it different over here, but it's just as intense.
Yeah, we keep telling ourselves, hey, go to the racetrack because it's safe over there. And racing is not as safe as doing a track day, obviously, but it's, you don't expect to die. You know what I mean? And this is a race where you come in expecting to die. You go like, okay, I don't really, I got to win this thing. I don't really care what happens. And there's a very real chance, and it's measurable, right? Out of
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't use the word expect,
not
but
expect. Yeah,
you
but
100% accept it. You
yeah.
accept the possibilities. Like there's no question. And there's a couple of the mistakes I've had at those races over the years to where I just look back and shake my head and wow, you just dodged the biggest bullet. But yeah, you go in there accepting it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So why do you think Macau is safer than or has a safer record than Isle of Man? I mean, do people are so scared of the walls there that they actually slow down, or
You know what? That's an amazing question that I can't answer. And I do think some of it is due to the mass start because you end up racing people, and in any race sometimes that leads you in, but sometimes when you get served by somebody who's faster, you actually back down. And so you'll see the algorithm of Macau where the first 3 laps, it's like people are going every which way, and it's a proper race. And then all of a sudden, about halfway, most of the people start to like, all right, tap out. I've had enough, and they start to relax. Or when I say relax, maybe slow the pace. Where Isle of Man, another problem with Isle of Man that I think is that separates the two is Macau is only what's it, three? It's a little over 3 mile lap. TT's 36. So there's a long, 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 long amount to get lost and forget your way. And I mean, at TT for sure, I've never been, well, in Pikes Peak I have, but like say Pikes Peak and TT, those places, I've never been that focused in my life. Like, and I am ADD to the 10th power. I stare at the planes when I'm racing. I can tell you what the corner workers are wearing. Like, I've got a major attention problem. But with TT, that was like the one time where I was like laser focused. And I could still to this day remember one lap to where I was like going out, my first lap, you're always absolutely scared out of your mind. Thinking to yourself, what did I get into? This is stupid. Like, what are you thinking? Second lap, you're like, I think I got this. Like, I can control it. And then the third lap, you're like, shit, I got to wait a day to ride again. Like, you want it so bad. But like at that third lap, you get almost comfortable. And I can still to this day remember going over Bluff Bridge and kind of forgetting where I was or how intense the jump was. And I jumped all the way across the street, almost into a pub. And I was like, that's it. Like, you lose focus one more time, we're not coming back. So that I think that could be the difference to where maybe Macau, since it's so much shorter, it's easier to focus, or I don't know. Everybody's different, obviously.
Right. Well, also that's a good point. If you're treating every lap as a qualifier because you're out there on your own,
Yeah.
trying to beat your time versus being held up by a group, that's a very good comment. It's a very good point.
Yeah. So
Both,
yeah, all
both,
those variables.
yeah, both though necessitate massive cojones, I would say, just to even stop, let alone go through with the actual event.
Yeah. No, they're special places too. I mean, we all gravitate towards motorcycles because we love them in every which way. You know, everybody's a little different, but you know and then the next elevation from that is the competition, and then the next elevation from that is these specialty races for me that just, you know, at club racing or at an AMA level, you know, I would see myself just like zoning out or not paying attention or just getting sidetracked on something. And these races, I think that's what made me gravitate to them, because it makes you hyper focus, or else like you have no option. Like you either focus or the worst could happen.
Yeah, speaking on those club racing, 2010, you ran WIRA, WSMC, CSC, and had 13 wins on a BMW. And I was fortunate enough to be with you on the same racetrack at the same race, but I was on the second wave. Obviously, because I was a novice back then, I still am. And I sent you that picture of you almost slapping me. You didn't, but I clearly slowed you down. So I apologize. But you were unbeatable. I mean, every race that you were in, I remember everybody was just going like, yeah, it's, you know, he's going to win that. And you were up against you know, pretty heavy names like Carl Lowry and all those guys. They're pretty fast guys, and they couldn't stand a chance. You just obliterated them. You just went through the field. Nobody ever saw you. You know, once the start started, and you went like 119, 119, 119, 119, and that was, you know, that was it. So yeah, I mean that 2010 was a pretty good year, huh?
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. That 10 became with the BMW, and it was a brand new bike, brand new platform. Everybody was, you know, going cuckoo over it. And we got a little bit of connection with a local dealer, which connected us with the factory a little bit. And there was a little bit of communication there. And yeah, it was one of those that just kind of the piece of the puzzle kind of came together. And again, with those type of races, I was always kind of known for kind of the headhunting. You know, I would go from track to track, whatever, who was paying the most money. And, you know, it sounds selfish, but it worked, you know, it paid the bills. And I mean, in those years, like, I mean, to be honest, from like 2005 to 2010, contingency money was proper. Like, you know, Willow Springs, you can say what you want about that crazy little place in the desert, but there was times when, you know, I walked away to there with proper money, you know, which I, now being in the industry, and especially at, you know, a pretty high level dealing with riders, I cringe on what they're getting paid. I cringe in what they have to pay for themselves. The risks that they're taking, you know, for, I wouldn't say for nothing, because we're all doing it for, you know, for something if it's not individual. But yeah, those early years, you know, whew, you know, those Toyota 200s, stuff like that. I mean, there's a bunch of them. I can go on, but like, you know, if you pay attention, you kind of played your cards right, you walk away with these club races
50
with
grand.
proper money. It was,
Yeah.
you know, it was worth taking the risk.
Yeah, it was a $250,000 purse in those Toyota 200s, right?
Yeah, 50,000.
Well, 50,000 I think was first place, but the total
Yeah,
purse,
for the whole thing.
yeah,
Yeah,
the whole thing.
exactly.
So you would still, if you,
Which in today's dollar is 500,000.
Yeah,
it's, you know what racing is now. It used to be club racing. You know, it doesn't, you know, almost doesn't exist anymore. I mean, except Chakwala. But
Yeah.
it's
I
a
was
different
looking at a
world.
contingency sheet from for the payouts from one of the motorcycle parts brands, and I won't say who to save the innocent, but it was like $50, and that's kind of in the super bike or super stock 1000, and the top price was maybe a few $100, and then it was like 50.
Yeah.
It's all
Yeah.
about
That doesn't cover the tire.
yeah, it's all about viewing eyeballs, right? It's how many views your videos are going to get on YouTube, how many people are going to pay the gate fee to come in and watch the race,
Yeah.
and the attendance is just not there anymore. People are not interested in it, so it's it's a circus without a crowd right now.
Yeah. And these things, I mean, you look at it, especially with my background, I come from off-road. I come from the motocross, supercross side of things is my roots. And that show is extremely packageable. It's like real easy where your road race events, they're usually fairly remote. The track is spread across, a good amount of property, and it's a hard little show to sell. But on the flip side, yeah, the advertisement nowadays, yeah, it's not there to where, God, I cringe and what these guys are getting and not getting. It's amazing.
And it's not right now. It's not a good viewing experience too. I mean, you go to Coda and you see one turn, maybe two turns if you're lucky. But then you go to one of those old racetracks like Willow, and you sit there on the balcony and you can see pretty much the entire track.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's an amazing point. I don't know why. Well, I know a little bit why, and a lot of it's political, but why it never took off, because for as far as the viewing part of it, yeah, there's no comparison.
Yeah. You also won the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb while competing as a rookie in 2014 on Kawasaki ZX-10R, setting a record time and winning Rookie of the Year. So it's the same. It's the same everywhere you go, right? You come in there first time around and you show everybody, where the turns are.
Yeah, I wish it was that easy, but yeah, there's been a couple that worked out in my favor, but yeah, the Pikes was one that was funny just because there was so much, I wouldn't say argument, but like bantering back and forth between all these people that had done it for a bunch of years. And it's another one of those, it's a closed road, but the surface is really intense. Like there's sections of it, it's like a motocross track, and it's every bit as dangerous as the other two. The speeds aren't quite as high, but the accuracy is higher. And so all these older guys and maybe people in the know kept saying, "Oh, well, to win that race, you got to have a bike has more traveler. It's upright with handlebars and things like that." And I was kind of like, I don't know about that. Like, kind of like the ZX-10, and I kind of got a good little feeling with it. And then the more I said that, the more people fought back, and I was like, all right, well, I guess we're going to go race this thing and see what's what.
You know
And
why,
yeah,
right? It's the Ducati marketing machine, right? That once they brought those multistradas, everybody believed that that's the best bike.
yeah, exactly.
And no, it was just the bike with the best rider on it. That's what it was.
Yeah. In I hate to say it, and I don't want to take anything away from the other manufacturers or even the one I was running for, but in races like that, yeah, there could be a guy up there with I don't even know, a Pook scooter and probably smash half the leader bikes.
It's all about the rider. And then you won the Moto America Super Sport Championship as crew chief for Sean Dillon Kelly in 2021. So
Yeah.
you can obviously tune bikes as well, or at least get info from riders, especially young riders, and translate it to real results. So how's that experience transitioning from a rider to crew chief?
That's been really fun too. Like I was surprised how much it sucked me in, how much I really just engulfed wanting to get into it. And I was lucky to work with a couple young riders. Like I actually, I haven't put it up there, but like even with Rocco Landers, we were the first, well, me and my partner were the first person that put Rocco on a 400. It was our 400 he won the championship on, so I had a big part in that. So with him and then with Sean, the first 2 years, you know, it was major swing for me. And I'm still racing, but it was kind of different when you go to the track and now people are asking questions and I love to talk about it, but get sidetracked, you know? And so then that's kind of where I started to cross over and started into the tuning part of it. And then not only that, working with the younger riders, that obviously the talent with Sean and Rocco is there from birth, but they just need to know how to talk about it. They need to know how to bring it out. And me having such a background in such these multiple angles of motorcycling in general, it's a good kind, you know, maybe it's an easier conversation than most. And then having a little bit of a mechanical background, I can convert all that over. So yeah, it's fun. For me, it's the crazy time though. Like, you know, I go from being in pressure and racing and all of the hype between that and then, you know, building bikes. And now these days rider comes off the track, I plug into the bike with a computer and I stare at squiggly lines for the next 6 hours until I fall asleep in bed. Like, it's just a weird thing, swing of events.
Do you ever go in there and set times that are better than them? I remember Chuck Graves doing the same thing to his riders, where he'd just go I'm faster than you, but I'll let you ride.
All right, and it's a ongoing joke. Like, you know, my rider, like with a lot of them, we'll have somebody come up that we don't even know, walk over our shoulder, and they'll kind of behind their shoulder and say, "Hey, don't let your crew chief put a helmet on and go kick your ass." So no, it's fun, and I mean now I just love that part of it. I love the training and just being the older statesman, right? You know, like when you're racing, I started way late because, you know, real late start to things and kind of couldn't do it until I could kind of do it myself. And so I was always way older than most racers that I was up against. And, you know, and that's always like that unwritten, untalked about number, you know, talk about your age, blah, 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 you know, all this. So my whole career was just kind of like, they knew that I was a little older, but we just kind of didn't talk about it. And so my whole life, I'm less like, how old are you? Like, I don't know. We don't switch the subject. And now when I'm working with these kids, you know, and we're out motocrossing or flat tracking or on the road race track, I'm like, yeah, I'm over twice your age and I'm stomping you into the ground. You better step up your game, kid. And it's I use it as a crutch. It's funny.
Are you going to go back on a bike in AMA and show them?
Yeah, it came down to this is a true story. Like, it came down to this close this year. My rider, I worked with Sam Lockoff this year and he got injured. And I actually packed my leathers and helmet up and was heading to the track. And it was just logistically, not to have a crew chief there, it was too much of a headache, but it like seriously got to where it was within the last couple hours. But yeah, I probably would have gone out there and embarrassed myself and gone fast for 3 laps and come out with my tongue hanging out or something.
I don't think so.
Probably not. So what's the biggest challenge being a crew chief?
Biggest challenge 100% is a communication and just being able to come off, and everybody has a different expression on their feeling. You know, we go into a turn, the bike is doing X from the front end. Well, how you explain that and how your brother, the dog, the guy on the sidewalk explains it, everybody's different. It's taking that explanation and being able to convert that into an actual mechanical happening, what's going on with the suspension, the geometry, possibly the electronics. And, you know, half the time these guys come off the track speaking Chinese, which I don't understand. And then I convert it over to something that makes sense. And I think that's my little specialty in this department. Maybe I'm able to kind of relate. Like this, I actually understand what that means in a turn, or, you know, whatever their gesture may be. And that I think is a big part in the crew chief part of it. You know, I'm not the smartest suspension guy. I'm not the smartest data guy. I'm, you know, not the smartest strategist, but I can relate what they're feeling to compile all that and have a direction forward. And I think that's where I shine over the rest of the people.
Do you also have that advantage of giving them advice. If the bike is acting a certain way and you're not sure how to solve it with setup, you can just tell them how to solve it with their riding style, right?
Yeah, no, there's a big portion of that too. And I'm lucky to where, I've definitely got to work with quite a few people, but I think when somebody else in a different maybe background might suggest going into the turn, dropping a shoulder, doing whatever it needs to happen, it's probably not taken with the same weight. So I'm lucky with that. Like actually the very first year we started the 400 project with the Ninjas, I actually had Ashton Yates riding my bike. And as soon as we put him on, God, he went out in Laguna, obliterated the track record. We won the next race. And obviously, he's got a substantial dad standing right next to him. But with Aaron, that guy's got an opinion on everything, and it holds weight, right? Well, with me, we were able to come to a common ground because I had been there, done that. He's been there, done that. So yeah, I could definitely with other crew chiefs, it would definitely be difficult in a situation, especially like that with a dad like that.
Also, you got to explain to him, today's bikes are not yesterday's bikes. I remember Aaron Yates just being wild on the bike.
Wild.
Right? When he went one direction, the bike went another direction. He would just put it back where they wanted to, and no electronics, no nothing. So now it's I guess when you explain to him that it's an electronics game now, where you can't do what he did on a bike and get away with it, I guess he listens to you more than he listens to other people that don't have that experience.
Yeah, well, there's that view, which is 100% true, but then there's the flip side where a lot of these kids, like when I first started dealing with Rocco, he would have been 13. When I first started dealing with Sean, he would have been 15. And these kids are coming from obviously the mini bikes that don't have electronics, but their first introduction onto a full-size bike has usually has quite a bit of electronics. So you'll come across these questions like, oh, well, the electronics don't work. And then I go right back into, in my day, we didn't have a damn shifter. We didn't have a damn TC. Here was your TC and here was your shifter, and like, you really need to connect that. And I am all for the electronics, but at the end of the day, I think one of the things that benefited me so much, I would go to these track days and be lucky enough for people to allow me to ride their bike. And I would just seriously go down the line from, a very expensive super bike down to the biggest piece of crap with crappy tires, and then get a taste for all that stuff, and you'd come back with like, oh man, that bike that's 10 years old does this particular thing in the turn so much better than the other turn, especially that bike with the $30,000 fork. So how do you feel about that? But it breeds all these feelings, and this connections where, yeah, now I'm able to share it with these little snotty-nosed brats.
Man, we didn't even have slipper clutches. We were our own slipper clutch, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you watch those two fingers. You keep them on the lever.
Yeah.
I mean, these are habits you have to break when you leave the pits now, and you don't ever touch a clutch anymore. That's just weird.
I'm looking forward to a motorcycle with a blipper, right? I don't know how I'm going to shift down without blipping.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. It's funny now. And I have one guy that I coach specifically, an older gentleman that has been around way before that, goes pretty damn fast now, and every once in a while there could be electronic glitch or something like that. He'll come in and, oh, the blipper's not working or it's not accurate. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me, guy. Like, you come from that point. Don't give me that. Go out and ride the motorcycle. It's still got two wheels. It's got a throttle. It's got brakes. If those are working, we're good.
Yeah.
So your chief trait is diplomacy, really, in this.
Yeah.
So I remember one of the early days when I got a good bike. The guy who built it was, so how is the bike? And I'm like, fine. Like, how does it feel in the turns? I'm like, okay. And they're trying to solicit feedback, right? And I have no clue what I'm talking about, right? Now looking back, maybe 5 years ago, like, yeah, maybe it was a little too stiff because it was set up for a super sport champ, and I was running 2.5 minutes track lap times. Is there a way to teach riders? Well, at the professional level would be fascinating, but like even amateurs, how to give better feedback?
Yeah, 100%. And I've specifically gone out on certain track days and done things to the bike and told them, after then you come back. So basically, we'll go out, and the first step is the hardest step. We're all testosterone driven motorcycle riders, right? First step is to go out there and swallow your ego. You're going to go a little slower, but you're going to turn your recorder on. And there's stuff like that to where there's people that obviously can do it quite well, and there's people that just struggle with the basics. So we'll go out and I'll specifically change something that's related to whatever we're talking about, how it turns in, the way it goes over a bump, whatever it may be. And then make a massive change to the bike, have them ride it, and then we'll come back and talk about it. And not that that's going to produce a lap time that day. That's not the target. That's not the objective. The objective is to connect what that tingly feel in your pinky finger might have been to that feeling that you felt from the motorcycle. Oh, well, this relates. And you take that and move it on, in the next time. But it's really hard on everybody because they always have a different recording system, right? Like everybody can take so much in, and sometimes that caps at just a couple seconds or maybe a couple turns. Sometimes the other riders, that could cap at the whole 20 minutes. So it's finding what your ability level is, just like riding the motorcycle. What's your ability level to remember?
Right. Yeah, I noticed a big difference. Like I've done coaching before, and I've done the usual, pay a guy $40 to set up your suspension. And I rarely got anything out of that suspension discussion, because you come in and you say, well, the bike doesn't turn, and they don't know if it's you or the bike or whatever it is that you are doing. And so you coach like at Fast Track and plenty. And I don't think there's a way around. You got to know what the rider's doing and then blame the bike if the bike setup has anything to do with it, before you can actually say, well, you need 2 clicks of compression. Well, sure, because I told you the bike doesn't turn and you don't know how I'm riding. And now 2 clicks of compression. I'm like, that does not sound right to me. It's an incomplete sentence.
And that's where my benefit comes in, especially places like Fast Track, where I'm out on the track with them in those Fast Track academies and things like that, where I'm out visually seeing what they're doing. Okay, well, it doesn't turn in turn 4 because you did everything wrong in turn 2. It has nothing to do with any compression, clicks, blah, 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 blah. And so, another advantage of mine is being able to visually see that and then relate it to like, okay, well, let's fix the body position, let's fix your turn-in point, and then we can start talking about this valve stack, which isn't going to do anything for your lap time.
Yeah. Like there's a famous spot, was it 10, 11, that chicane in Fast Track where there's bumps. And I was complaining, I think Toye or may have been Ulrich, I can't remember. I'm like, it's so bumpy over there, and the bike gets all unstable. And they're like, we need to change the suspension, right? That was my first blame the bike thing. And they go, well, what are you doing there? I'm like, well, it's so unstable that I roll off. And they're like, well, you're doing exactly the opposite of what you need to do. Get on the gas, the bike is lighter, and you'll sail over these bumps. Lo and behold, I just changed that thing, and the bike suspension was perfect. It was the rider that was imperfect at best.
No, and it's hearing those cues like that and knowing the track specific, where not to beat on some of these suspension guys out there, but not a whole lot of them ride, and not a whole lot of them ride a lot of the tracks, to where there's the little track specific bumps like there at Fast Track. All the tracks we go to, across the country will have a G out here, a seam that will upset the bike. And I don't give a crap what you're doing. Putting tires, putting suspension, you're not going to fix it. It's a physical thing that you have to manipulate. And that's you hit it right on the head with that. So there's so many adjustments, but at the end of the day, the most adjustment that can be made is between the handlebars and seat, hands down.
Yeah, right here.
Right, for sure. Yeah, I mean, take anybody who's gone over and either raced or just driven around TT course, the manipulation you have to do to the motorcycle there, it's intense. The things that you have to compensate for that will never, ever be fixed with a different compression stack, a different compound tire, or chassis geometry, whatever. You'll never ever fix it. And that's what makes that place so special. And then most of those street races, that's what makes it so special, because you are so dynamic on the motorcycle.
And you know what? The best measurement is the press launches, right? You see world champions going on a standard bike, and they're like within 3 seconds of, a motorcycle that you put 200 grand into.
Yeah.
And that's how fast those machines can go right out of the showroom. And if you're going less than that, it's not the bike, it's you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, 100%. I can still to this day remember my out lap at TT, and still makes me shake my head to this day. When I knew I was going over, I had got the video game. I knew, 8 months in advance. I played that game 6 months. I played it every single day for an hour. I'd come home from what I was doing and play the game, play the game, play the game. So I knew, I'm going to go left, I'm going to go right. I had it pretty memorized down, the direction of the track. And I go over there, and, the hype and all this and the show and all that. It's really cool. And we line up for our sighting lap, the first, newcomers lap. And you're in a group of about 4 or 5, and here I am, this macho professional racer, and the marshal's going to escort us around for the first lap. This guy pulls up on a Honda 954 with Kevlar leathers and his fucking lunch strapped to the back seat. And I'm like, what in the hell is this guy going to show me? Like, get the hell out of my way. Like, there's no way that this is a waste of my time. And I'm kind of like looking around at my guys. I'm like, what's this guy doing? And we take off, and this guy disappears. And I almost shit myself for the first mile. I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, just like you say, this guy's on a road bike with his lunch strapped to the back, just waving goodbye to Mr. Testosterone driven, professional racer that I think I am. I'm not shit compared to this guy. And, it was just crazy. And that's it in a nutshell. Like, you could have the guy doing the correct input and make up so much more for the motorcycle than you'd think.
Let's shift gears now into 6th gear and talk about 210 miles an hour on a Kawasaki H2R. How does that feel? We talked to Nick Einach when he used to do those shootouts.
Super bikes from hell.
Yeah, but you were on a stalker.
Yeah, and we had, not only that, it was a pre-production bike. God, I got a lot of shit for that post. I wasn't supposed to post that, but yeah, it was funny. Like I said, I did a lot of work with Kawasaki, and especially on the commercial side of things, to where I did all the commercials for ZX10, and that H2 was a special project. And obviously, when it came out, it was super hush-hushed. Where, man, it was in the headquarters at Kawasaki, in the most remote back janitor's quarter room that I've ever seen. I mean, it just was amazing. We walk in and see this like spaceship sitting there, talk about it, and then we ended up flying out to New Mexico at SpaceX and Richard Branton's facility out there, and it's a 3.5 mile landing strip basically. And so went out there, and we're doing photo shoots and this and that, and riding this thing, and they're usually fairly loose when it's just one bike and one rider. So then I asked the head Kawasaki guy there, like, hey, I gotta go switch a helmet. They want a wardrobe change. I'm gonna go back, or do you want to go and get? Oh no, you can go back. And I'm like, all right, this thing's all good, right? But I kind of said, like, meaning like it's a production motorcycle, right? And he goes, yeah, pretty much. So I took off down that runway, and again, 3.5 miles, and I take off, and again, I've got my reservations because I've been around a little bit, and this motorcycle's got these big stupid wings hanging off of it, and the tail section looks like some cone off the back of a Cessna, and I'm like, this is a bunch of bullshit. So I take off in this thing and I start smashing the gears, and I'm like, all right, it's pretty damn fast, but all right, let's see what it's got. And that thing zips up to, probably 180 indicated pretty quick. And I'm thinking to myself, all right, this is where bikes, and like real speed, 180 on a bike is pretty damn fast. We barely do that at Daytona. And all of a sudden, like right around 180, you could feel this bike start to go click, 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 like getting sucked down to the ground. And I mean, 190 comes by and I'm like, dude, it's really stable. 200 comes by. Again, this is indicated. And I'm not exaggerating it. At 190, you could seriously take your hand off and drink something. Like it was so stable. And I'm watching this little speedometer keep going, burying past 200. And I'm like, this is crazy. And then I got this little ring in my head, like, shit, this production bike. And they didn't even tell me I could ring the thing out. So I backed the thing off. But yeah, it's that bike's no joke. It is no joke. It the whole fact that they give that to the general public with a license is just insanity. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah, somebody rode it around Fontana, right? Who was it that
Elias?
went out? Was it Tony?
I think so.
Yeah, I've rode one around Fontana. They actually had me the year it came out, I would do the kind of the introduction laps to, I did one at MotoGP, I did two at Moto America, but I'll never forget, I did the one for MotoGP at Laguna Seca, and big deal, here comes this H2, and I've ridden, quite a few bikes around Laguna Seca, and I've hands down never been that fucking scared in my life. Like I'm shutting off, way, way, way before my braking markers. And that's another problem with the thing is it has, the R comes with these Bridgestone slicks. Man, not too bad. And we're coming around over 1, 2, 3, 4, and from 4 to 5, I don't think this thing ever quit spinning to where I only did, I think, a total of 5 laps. And there was 5 marks from 4 all the way past the bridge. And by the time I came in, the tire was wasted, and obviously kind of like you suggested about Fontana, I'm scared of this bike. So my line is completely wrong. So I'm whacking the throttle with way too much horsepower with the wrong trajectory and spinning this tire all the way down. But it's just one of those bikes that yeah, I wouldn't say it's the best handling bike, but if I had a ton of money and wanted a whole fleet of bikes and something to scare the shit out of me, I totally have one.
BMW just launched their S1000RR yesterday, I think, and I guess one of the new features is drift control. So if you do that, the bike's actually going to save you. And I guess
Really?
they do it with like a sensor of the bike angle versus the rear wheel versus the angle of the steering.
Totally. Yeah.
So it's like, come on, man, that's too much electronics. Just let me have some fun.
Yeah. No, that's crazy. Leave it to the Germans to come up with that option. That's awesome.
I know,
Gonna
right?
get that one.
I just hope
It's very cool because you can experiment, for people who'd be scared of getting the bike to slide, knowing there's a safety net. I think that's, if you know how to do it, good for you. If you don't, that's a good way to invite you to start trying.
Yeah, definitely good. But sorry, but my suggestion would still go buy yourself a $5,000 dirt track bike and figure it out there. Because when you chuck that thing or fall down and slide, you get up, you laugh it off. Not a problem.
I just hope they remember to drill enough holes in the engine for oil this time around. I didn't say anything. Let's go back to Isle of Man. So you prepared by playing a video game. Is that all you did? What did you do nutrition-wise, training-wise? How did you prepare the bike? What kind of base setup did you go with before you went in there? And how did you change the setup once you started riding there?
Yeah, that was the thing. As far as the machinery goes, I flew over direct and rode for a Manx base team that had time there, and it was a fairly standard GSX R1000.
The best bike around, right?
Yeah, I mean, Swiss Army knife. And as far as the settings and stuff go, we barely changed it. Well, we did a couple clicks here, maybe changed a fork spring and a couple things just because I'm, fairly sensitive, but it wasn't anything out of the ordinary. And fairly standard bike because, again, you're so dynamic about it. And there was so much more for me to benefit of playing that game, which I guarantee saved my life. Like it's everybody that goes over, I pound it into their head. You better play, you better play, you better play.
Now,
That was one thing that,
which game was it? Wasn't Grand Theft Auto, right? Where you stop in the middle of the race and you shoot some hookers?
yeah,
Is that what it was?
no, this one you go into the field and run over goats, but it's kind of
Oh,
a similar.
okay,
No, it was Suzuki Superbikes TT, and then
okay.
I think they rebranded it since then. But yeah, the game is a hands down a lifesaver. But really, with that place, it's funny. I've been riding again. My background is all motocross, and it's quite physical, and I ride at a decent level to where it takes a good cardio. And I don't do a whole lot of other things, especially then. So just watch what I eat a little bit, ride a motocross bike, and I was going to be fine. I get there, and I remember taking that first week, and being respectable in its pace and this and that. And then I knew quite a few of the guys, even like McGinnis and all the big head honchos there from Macau. And I'll never forget Finnegan, one of the guys is not with us anymore, but a proper bad dude there, comes to me. We're just right before we're ready to go into Parc Ferme, I'm gonna go take my last little whiz. And we're sitting in the bathroom. He looks over, he goes, "You ready for this?" Yeah. He's like, "Mate, pace yourself because it's quite physical and this and that." And he kind of pounded into my head, and I kind of got like intimidated because I didn't know. I'd been riding these one lap deals, and I was like, shit. Okay, I'm going to take it. This guy's been there, done that quite a few times. I'm going to take his advice, like the guy, he knows what he's talking about. So I actually took my first race kind of toned down, and I was so pissed about it because it's not that physical, or it wasn't that physical to me. And then I get up, after the end of the race, and I'm looking at these, 220 to 240 pound beer drinking, cigarette smoking Irish guys sweating their ass off, and I'm over there going like, "You guys are a bunch of wusses." Like, it was not that big a deal. But yeah, I think the mental thing for me, like, that's where it's at. I would get in there and right before I'm ready to go out, iPods in, I'm listening to something mellow like Sade or just something to get my mind focused for nice calm focus. And that's really where it's at. That game and focus, shit, that's no problem. The rest of that's easy.
Did you change your routines at the gym? I know you just came back from the gym.
Yeah, no, I especially those times I was quite lighter and not carrying so much muscle because that stuff just gets in the way. So quite lighter. Nutrition definitely was a factor there. Just keeping the weight off, but that's another thing. When you go to places like TT, Isle of Man, like, no offense to the people over there, but God, the food sucks over there. So you don't want to eat anything. And now you end up being
you,
quite light the whole time.
you don't want a shepherd pie or whatever they ate there.
Whatever else. I mean, dude, no
Haggis.
Warm Guinness beer.
warm Guinness beer. Everything's got about 4 pounds of mayonnaise on it. Like, I'm not into it. I seriously have probably never ate at McDonald's so much in my life that week. Just like that was the one you knew that what you were getting was going to be what you ordered.
Just give me a number one. I don't want anything, too complicated.
Yeah.
So fitness and riding. I mean, you are the guru, I would think, from all the coaches I know, the one who's most stripped and trains the most, not on a bike. What's the role of fitness in your mind? And I mean, really, how fit do you have to be good?
That's
really
that's it. It's different for everybody, right? And I think it's shifted so much now that I'm not racing full time. It's one of those things where I think I'm supplementing something I'm missing from racing with going to the gym more. So it's one of those things that just kind of like you shift in life. Obviously I ride quite a bit, but I don't have to be fit for a 2-hour race. And back in the day, and still to this day, what am I saying back in the day? Still to this day, me and Josh Hayes argue about this all the time. And especially when both of us are racing full time and, he's local here. So we train quite a bit on motocross and stuff. We always get in the argument. Even when I was racing full time, I still would have a fairly decent gym routine. And my kind of outline was like, hey, all of our races, depending, the specific ones, but all of our races are about an hour, right? You should be able to bench press your motorcycle for an hour. That's all you need. other than that, he's out there going on these bicycle rides for 5, 6 hours, like all of this cardio that's like next level. We go back and forth on that all the time to where like you should physically be able to manipulate your motorcycle to the 10th power, like at TT, going back to that place is so physical. I came in after one lap through one of the very, very fast sections that has a couple of bends in it. And I ended up bending either stock handlebars. I ended up bending one of the handlebars in just from trying to change direction. And I think you should have that, harness that power to manipulate that bike that's trying to manipulate you, as opposed to being able to ride that thing for 20 hours like Josh's, concept is. Obviously, hard to argue with a guy that's got, 6 championships, 4, superbike championships, whatever he's racked up. It's hard to argue with a guy that's been there and has results like that. But I think everybody's it works different for everybody, though.
Well, for the next 4 to 6 weeks, you're faster than him.
Yeah, exactly.
Take it now.
Oh, it's got to be more than that.
Yeah,
And when we go to the motocross track, it's still better. It's still more than that. God, that talk about a fucking tough dude. You should see, like, he showed me the x-rays the next day as he's cruising around the pits laughing about it. And I mean, it's no joke. His leg is proper busted. It's proper busted. And he's still cruising around talking to people, giving them advice about this and that. And I'm like, Josh is like, that's definitely one of my guys. That's a bad dude no matter what position he's in.
How would you compare Macau setup to the TT setup?
Quite different. Macau, even though it's still a street race, and again, not trying to offend anybody, but in China, where let's just say the attention to detail is not very high, you got buses, you got cars, you got taxis. It's basically Vegas. I mean, it's it's stop and go traffic all day long
without the crime.
Yeah. Well, it's organized there. Very clear. Very organized.
It used to be organized here too, and there was no, street crime. Now that everybody's gone and the corporations run it, all the crime's in the street. I live in Vegas.
Yeah. So the grip level in Macau is extremely high. Like it's crazy how high it is. So your setting is more real close to a short circuit setting. Some minor tweaks, couple, maybe just a fraction softer, where, to be honest, TT, I don't think anybody has a proper setting. If I was visualize a proper setting for TT, it would be something off a trophy truck from Baja, and that might work the best. And it sounds funny, but I have legitimately started thinking about how to have bypass shocks and long travel suspension. Because there's places at TT. I mean, there's a section of road called Ginger Hall, to where it's not very turny. It's got a couple little bends in it, but it's bumpy as hell. And again, motocross background, so I love a rough road. That's my specialty. And I remember going through there and being on the gas and just trying to hold this thing straight. And guy went by me, grabbing gears, just flew right by me. And I'm like, this is a fucking straightaway. Like, how in the hell, like, anybody at any level can hold a motorcycle open down a straightaway, and I'm fighting this thing to the last 10th power. And so, yeah, setting is one thing, but riding it in a position to handle those settings is another. So, yeah, another thing you build for TT is the bike has to be way, way more robust, because you've got to ride around for 2 hours jumping, bottoming this thing out. Like, I remember the first time I went over, I'm sitting there looking at like little things like muffler hangers. And I'm like, that bike has a stock muffler hanger. Like, what? Are they cheap? Do they not know? You could drop so much weight with that. And then the next guy, you look over and there's a pipe hanging off this motorcycle right next to it because his pipe hanger broke, right? And there's when you say setup, it's massively different. Steering stops at TT. The bikes at TT, the handlebars barely move just a couple degrees because the thing's always getting in a tank slap because of the surface. So they'll build these giant stops off the bike so they don't allow to get in such a tank slap. Kind of sucks for pictures because you can't back the thing in as much. But the setup is, it's quite different, where Macau is is for sure a short circuit setting, where TT would be more like your street surface. Pikes Peak would be definitely like your street surface.
So you pretty much locked the steering damper all the way to 21.
Yeah, which you actually do. Which I'm a huge. I'm so anti-steering dampers. That guarantees that your suspension is wrong, and I would have nothing more than 2 steering dampers on my bike at TT probably.
You know what? When I go to the back straight in Fontana, I gotta have it because as soon as you hit that bump of the oval, the bike just goes all over. So I gotta have those things just for that corner.
Well, see, there you go. There's your new supplement. You go to the gym, a little bit more string training, hold those handlebars tight.
Okay, all right. I'll take it as a non-compliment, which is I go to the gym.
Yeah, speaking of which, so for someone like Gal, who's like 30 pounds overweight, hasn't been on a bike in a while, kind of aging
it's
guy.
all that 30 pound is all balls, buddy.
What's a good training regimen? I mean, he's not looking to break track records because he can't, and he's riding a Suzuki anyway, so that's out of the question.
You see those guns, man?
Oh, look at that! We're good.
All kidding aside, he is
something in the water in Vegas.
Yeah, they put vodka in the water. That's what.
There you go. Well, works for me too.
Yeah, he's in way better shape than he looks just from the head up.
Look. When I raced WSMC, I went down to 170, and he still lapped me. So it's not about the weight.
The weight does help, though.
But what's a good like exercising routine? What are like if you were to do 4 things at the gym or at home as a rider? What do you think those are?
Well, a lot of it would be core, a lot of core stability. I don't do a whole lot because I specifically focus on individual muscles, so it kind of just comes with the territory. But if I didn't have a proper set routine, I would definitely say core. Being able to be stable on your motorcycle when you're hanging off and dealing with those G-forces is huge. I mean, that's the biggest complaint I hear about a lot of people. And I don't want to give Hayes any credit, but definitely leg strength is superior to upper body strength. The more you can take the weight from your upper body and the inputs from your upper body disturbing the handlebars, the bike handles way better. So when you're supported by your legs, it makes the bike do what the bike was designed to do. And then it's only common sense. You look down at your body and your biggest muscle group is by far your leg. And so core stability, squats, a hamstring routine, things like that.
Hip abductors.
You would build that.
Hip abductors. You do those?
Yeah, hip abductors. It's not that you have to have strength with hip abductors, but the flexibility is huge, and that's where a lot of people fall short of. And for sure, I have to pay attention to that because my flexibility is horrible. But the abductors, I actually use that thing for stretching almost more than anything. But yeah, lower leg strength, the core, and then a good lat and a back muscle, more rounded, for anything. But those 3 would be the categories that are necessary. But that's it. With a motorcycle, you're so dynamic that you have to be a little bit involved in all the muscle groups, and that's where, if anybody has any background in, the motocross, that's why I train motocross so much, because it just hits every single thing. And not only you're having fun doing it, it's exercising all of those muscles. And, a lot of it in a fast twitch way, where at the gym, you can exercise that, but getting your fast twitch really to work correctly in the gym is kind of difficult.
Yeah, you load the weights and you just bench press it.
Yeah. So you end up filling muscle full of blood more than anything, which is not really what you want on the motorcycle. So it's hard to find that balance. And again, everybody's different.
Yeah, for me, it's the flexibility that goes first every time I put too much muscle on, and the shoulders. So it's tough for me to go, left to right because the shoulders are so, big and not
Yeah,
flexible.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so Aldrich wasn't way off. When I remember when I did the academy, before he said hello to me, he's like, he looks at me and he goes, "Okay, every day I want to see 100 push-up, 100, 100 crunches, 100 squats, and plank." And it was like, before you do anything, do those every day, and then
That's a
we'll talk.
pretty, yeah, that's
Like,
those are good.
okay.
That's a pretty serious routine. First thing I would have done is picked up a mirror and asked if he's ever done that.
Oh.
So
that was a surprise, because remember at the end of that academy we had the bicycle race.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm looking at him, I'm like, he's gonna get obliterated,
He's
right?
damn strong on a
And he gets on
bicycle.
that. Oh, he disappeared. I mean, I think we did 4 or 6 laps. I can't remember what distance was. I think he almost lapped me. Like I could see him behind me already. Coming around. He was doing like 25 or 27 miles an hour average, some ridiculous number.
That's why
I can't believe he's in such good shape.
You gotta get a stick in there and shove it in the wheels.
Yeah. No, or you do like I did and run him off the track. But that's case in point. That guy, and I joke with him. We're obviously fairly close. He's got a different perspective now with that body he's got, especially wearing yellow is not helping. But anyways, there's routines that have to happen for specific people. Me, I'm lucky enough to be a shorter, more athletic build guy to where I don't need so much the endurance. Well, Chris's whole life, if he was off a bicycle, and that's why he's so strong, they've kept him on a bicycle because, that guy quits his routine and he goes up. There was a big joke between us when we were racing full-time back in the day. So, obviously professional athlete comes with injuries, right? And you'd crash, get a broken this, or be on the couch for a week. Well, I crash and I'm on the couch for a week. I'd come off and I would lose 10 to 15 pounds every single time. And I'd come off in, in the 150s going, wow, listen, I'm at race weight. Chris, not so much.
It's muscles.
Yeah, Chris on the couch, he gains 15, 20 pounds, and he would be pissed about it, and I just rub it in his face. It's really funny, but again, everybody's so different.
Now you also work for Road Racing World, right? And his dad owns it, so you guys are
been
close.
With those guys for quite a while, doing the magazine stuff and feedback on how the motorcycle goes around the track. It's pretty fun. And now Chris living in Alabama, I tend to take all the West Coast stuff that's needed, so yeah, pretty cool. But yeah, without those, Chris is in a different position now, but from those concepts of going over to TT, Macau, Pikes, a lot of that wouldn't have been possible without Road Racing World and John. That guy has definitely taken care of me over the years.
You know what's funny? Back in, I think it was 2012 or 2013, there were 2 magazines that compared the 1000s, right? One of them was Motorcycle USA back in the day with Adam Wahid and all those guys, and then the second was Road Racing World. And I looked up the test that they put out, and then I looked at the test that you guys put out, and I said, let me go with the pros. Road Racing World didn't know what they're talking about versus those guys. I don't want to call them amateurs because they made a lot of money back in the day, but you guys are obviously just playing around on the internet, right?
Yeah, and it's funny. We saw this coming a while back from the Willow days and being connected with the magazine starting then. But guys like Adam, is actually a super close friend of mine. I talked to him on the regular. There's a guy that can relate to paper very well. Maybe not so much the mechanical part to riding. And so that's where I've always had the little bridge where I'm really good at relating that what's happening from pavement to mechanical to the motorcycle and let those guys put it on paper. But it's
what I'm
the
saying,
editor thing.
What I'm
that's
saying
a
is
separate race itself.
Yeah, what I'm saying is guys like that. I mean, he's fast. Don't get me wrong.
Really
right?
Fast, actually. Yeah.
But I've seen him do 135s at Fontana versus someone that needs to be the journalist that needs to put in 125s, 124s, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's still better than all those YouTubers that, would go 2 minutes and then do like an hour-long video about how the motorcycle feels. Well, I don't care how the motorcycle feels because you're not, you don't have the measurement to tell me how it feels, right? And then there's like 1 million views on the video. So what I'm saying is maybe you and Road Racing World should start competing with their, with those YouTubers in their level instead of doing like a 2-minute video of, hey, read the magazine. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, there's that too. That whole industry has changed so much over the years, though. It would be the direction is different. But I think there's a place for some of that stuff too. Like your average. Let's be honest. Your S1000 that you're going to pull off the showroom. Let's just say, luckily, by chance, let's just say 20% of those see the track, right? 80% of them are going to Starbucks and going to get stuck in the garage. It's their whole life. So, okay, there's 20% that are going to go to the track. Well, there's probably out of those 20% that go to the track, there's going to be maybe 10% that have, pretty decent pace. So what I'm relating and what I'm feeling will translate into most of your track day feel, but it doesn't have shit to do with driving the thing to Starbucks. It ain't got shit to do with going to your Dayglow, meeting bike night type stuff. And so my perspective is way skewed, from what I think everybody needs a little piece of it. But yeah, probably another thing in our PC world, a lot of these manufacturers aren't going to want to hear what I have to say about some of their product also. So, got to take some of it with a grain of salt, I guess.
So I say two things to that. One is the people that are using those bikes to go to Starbucks. Those are the type of people that always buy what the magazine says is the best, right? Doesn't matter if the bike at that particular day on those particular tires was 0.02 seconds faster with one tester or another tester at that particular race bike with those particular gearings, right?
Yeah.
If the magazines are going to say this is the winner, that's what they're going to buy, right?
Definitely.
Second of all, why not give the people quality information of what those bikes that are supposed to, be made for, what they're actually doing, right? Whether that's going to translate to them going on the racetrack and trying to maximize the performance, that's up to them. But when someone goes on YouTube, like me, for example, when I have a Roku TV, right? And I put YouTube on and I fall asleep, right? And every time I wake up in the middle of the night, there's certain YouTubers, I don't want to say the name, but what's that?
Or from your nap.
Oh, from my nap, right?
Okay.
After I ate a buffet. It's some YouTuber that the algorithm just pushes them up for views. They're always on, and I have to go and turn off the TV because I was like, you obviously never rode at pace in your life. You don't know what's going on, right? Why are you giving me information? I don't want your information, and I don't want YouTube to shove that information, in my face. So what I'm saying,
but I think Jeremy's point here is and I kind of agree with him on that. Is you need both in the world. You need the guy who's going to tell you, oh, this bike's got a cup holder and heated grips, and the seat is pretty comfortable, and the passenger seat is pretty comfortable, and it may be 1,000, it may be high performance, but really 80% of the riders never see the track. So you need that kind of review, and you need the review that's going to tell you, yeah, if you want to beat the track record, this is not the bike for you. So
but everything you just said is logical. I don't know if you guys have peeked outside those doors. Not so much logic going on for the most part. And you're totally right, but like in the same respect, that's the same thing. I mean, you think the guy at the Ferrari dealership is buying that car because it's the fastest one? Hell no, he's buying because his penis is this big. So there's that too. So yeah, I could see both views, for sure.
all I'm saying is start making YouTube videos that are an hour long and tell the truth of what's going on out there. That's all I'm saying. Just start competing in the marketplace. That's all.
Yeah, that's
so
definitely. definitely a need.
Speaking of bike reviews, what's your, kind of favorite bikes you've tested in the last, or maybe, some that have things you liked more and some other things that you liked more on
Let
other
me
bikes?
rephrase that. Let me rephrase that question. Why do you think the GSXR 1000 is the best bike ever made? And
And I was gonna say, and why is the Suzuki?
and why do you think the GSXR 750 is the second best bike ever made?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, that's pretty loaded, but no, I'd say there's been a bunch of stuff. I mean, there's been a bunch of stuff. I'll tell you one thing that I just rode, and obviously fairly irrelevant, is that new KTM. That thing's pretty damn amazing.
Are you a listener to that podcast? Did you listen to our last episode with Imad, and we did an episode about the KTM?
No, I didn't see it.
Okay, all right. It's
nobody saw it, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Not the only one,
because it's not on YouTube yet. but it is on. Do you have an iPhone or an Android?
Yeah.
iPhone. Oh, so either open your podcasts app and just search for Edge Grip Podcast, or put in or search it on Spotify. We're pretty much everywhere. So you can listen to that, and we got Imad to just talk about the KTM because he's got a KTM and Bill's got a KTM. So
yeah.
So now the guy with the Suzuki hat is gonna tell us about the KTM.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. Like I think one of the things that people maybe hire me for the most is there's not a whole lot of filter in my mouth. And so if the Suzuki's good, or if the Suzuki's bad, I'll tell you. If that KTM's good or bad, I'll tell you. But yeah, definitely that thing. I just rode it that last fast track, and it was pretty surprising. It was pretty surprising. I would like to ride that thing with a little bit more setup and know that it's properly broke in and see what it's capable of, because it's pretty impressive. But no, there's all kinds of stuff out there. Kidding me?
Please say more.
Yeah.
Nabil broke it for you, so next event.
Yeah, I'm doing the oil change this weekend, so on the 15th, you're more than welcome.
There you go. Yeah, I'm actually going and grabbing a mods on Monday and going through it for them. We're gonna do a couple things, a little bit of gearing change, some little bit of geometry and things like that. So yeah, we'll see. But that thing's pretty cool. And not just that, like obviously being around, you get interested when you see a new segment like that. Like, what the hell is that? It's an underpowered, overpriced, just day glow colored, and you're like, oh my God. Then you ride it and you're like, this is what I need. This is great. Do you want another S1000? There's a definite place for it. But you've kind of seen that and been there, done that, right? And so that KTM it's cool to see stuff like that. And it goes back to little things like even the Ninja 400. I doing all of the Kawasaki commercials back in the day, I did the commercial for the 300. And that thing's a piece of shit. Like I remember being next to the different vehicles they use for camera vehicles, and the camera vehicle outrunning the freaking motorcycle. And I'm just like, oh my God, this thing's such a turd. So Kawasaki, after that, Kawasaki called me about going and doing some development on the 400, and we were going to spend 2 days at Laguna Seca. And right off the bat, I'm like, all right, well, I'll do it. It's work, it's a job, whatever. Yeah, sure. So I seriously went there going, I'm going to Laguna Seca. I'm going to have restricted noise, which means restricted power, and this underpowered piece of crap that's some entry-level piece of junk. And probably leaving there with the most giggles and smiles that I've had in a long time, just because the thing is so good for what it's meant to be. It's not a super bike, but what it's meant to be, it was really fun. And that KTM is that same place. It's not as fast as 600, but it feels like an oversized volley on steroids, and that made me smile. Like that was really, really, really fun and exciting to ride. So there's those things that, for me, being lucky enough to ride all of this stuff and high level super bikes to whatever in between, these weird segments that come and kind of catch you by surprise and remind yourself, hey, I started riding motorcycles because I really love these stupid things, and this is a different category. yeah, at the end of the day, getting on a 1,000 cc super bike and going down the straightaway is fun. And if it sticks in the turn, bonus. But these other bikes that kind of come from catch off guard, that's what's really cool now for me.
Didn't you develop a track package for the 400 and then you went and tested it and just won a bunch of races on it just to sell
Yeah,
it?
we started
That was
we
with Rocco Lander, right?
yeah, that was with Rocco, but we have a whole um with my partner under Norton Motorsports, we have a whole package to where we sell a complete turnkey, ready to go track bike. And it started off with me having a relationship with Kawasaki, and we were actually going to go and support these things as far as like a Team Green motocross development program. Well, right around the COVID time and everything coming apart, that ultimately didn't come together. So we ended up building these bikes and developing parts. And again, obviously it's a cheaper bike, and there's parts on it that need to be switched. But for the most part, you can actually take that thing off the showroom floor, put a different set of brake pads on, and beat the crap out of it and make yourself laugh your butt off. So there's just things like that. But that's one to where like you just keep going. I built one a couple months ago for Dak Shepard, and the motorcycle is whatever it is right now. I don't know, 5-6 grand, depending on who's marking it up. After his build was done, there's a $30,000, $6,000 motorcycle sitting there, but you kind of think to yourself, what's that worth? But you come off smiling and laughing, and, it's definitely worth every penny then. So it's all perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, that was my takeaway my first time on that KTM, which was the only time. Usually I'm a little apprehensive before a track day. You get on these bikes and they're big and heavy, and you're going like, well, is it going to outride me? And I got to try to beat my personal best, and I'm going to take some risk here and risk. And I get on this bike and I go a few laps. I'm like, wow, this is actually fun. We are meant to come here and have fun.
Yeah.
And it just, that was like the main impression leaving. And I actually did go faster, but it was just the main impression leaving the track was like, this thing just makes me want to come back tomorrow and do more of this stuff, irrespective of whether I go faster or don't go faster. And I was still breaking in the engine. And it was just like, it made me regret starting the way I did on big bikes, as opposed to like starting my track experience on a 300 or a 400 and just having fun and growing into the bigger bikes over time. But yeah,
Goes back to that perspective of motorcycle, testosterone, ego, all this other stuff. We think that we need these things, and it happens so often. And a lot of the, I'm always trying to talk these people down from the cliff, like, come back to having fun, like, try this. You're not quite ready for that. You can have this later, so on and so forth. But yeah, those specific bikes, I mean, they definitely remind you why you first threw a leg over these dumb little machines to start with. So much fun.
Yeah, and then you have Suzuki Gixxer, which
What? So actually, the first bike I ever took around a racetrack was Big Willow, and it was a 2004 Yamaha R1 that I bought a couple months prior. So I started on a liter bike at Big Willow, which is pretty much the worst motorcycle you can start on the worst racetrack you can start on.
Yeah, one of the worst places to start riding, for sure.
Yeah.
Which, that's what I did.
and then I flew off the track on my second or third lap ever at turn 9. And I didn't fall, and I rode back on the front straight, but it was like, yeah, what do I do now, right? I got all this power, but I have no control over it, and it took me a while to learn, and I'm not sure about turn 9. I think I need to replace it.
Get some coaching with Jeremy. That'll get you there.
Yeah.
Well, you used to be able to run off at Willow Springs, not anymore. I think now you run off and you die over there.
Yeah, I don't know about if I'd ever want to run off at 9. I've ran off on my elbow and helmet and head a couple times in turn 9, but yeah, I think when you run off at turn 9 there, you're pretty much signed off. But
I missed the wall by inches, the pit wall.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
How?
Yeah, that's the thing. Starting at a place like that, that track specifically teaches a lot of bad habits. Being on a big bike, big leader bike, more bad habits. So, you welcomed yourself into the bad habit group right off the bat. No need to waste time. Just go straight for the gusto.
That's all right. I mean, every riders meeting where they go like, hey, if you're on a leader bike and someone on a 600 is showing you a wheel, let them pass. You're not never going to see them. And I was, getting my head down because that's me. Because I just, I'm a cheater. I use the power.
Yeah. Good stuff.
So how are the casinos in Macau compared to Vegas?
That's one thing I have such like a bad taste in my mouth of that place. When we first went, like I think the first year I went was 2003, and it was still extremely it was just gangsters, and it was something from a movie. As far as, I've never seen anything like that. And like, you walk in a casino back then and it was like, seriously, you could cut the smoke. Everybody's just chain smoking, and like, I'm only 5'8" and I'm able to look over everybody's head. Like, it was just a weird scene. And
You're big in Japan.
yeah, exactly. Oh, it's huge. Yeah, I'm huge over there. It's funny, but yeah. And then really quick, over the next 5 years, all of these Western casinos start coming in, and the place lost its whole vibe. Like, it seriously looks like I mean, it is. It's the Asian Vegas 100%, but I mean, it's all Western casinos and stuff. And just that whole third world, walking down a dirty street and, eating off a cart. A lot of that's gone. Well, pretty much all of it's gone.
Yeah, it's like Van Nuys.
Well, so my friend is actually head of M&A at the MGM. They bought a bunch of casinos down there. It's
Yeah.
all, MGM owned and big chain.
That's
Yeah,
where the money
that
for the
definitely-
Win comes, I think, right? The Win have a casino there, and I think that makes them most of the money, not
Yeah,
Vegas.
the Wynn, MGM,
Yeah.
Venetian. The Venetian there, from what I hear, it dwarfs Vegas. I mean, you walk down the aisle, you walk down the walkways, and you're like, there's no way that they can produce enough people. I mean, China will try to produce enough people, but there's no way they can produce enough people even to fill this thing up. You could seriously drive semi trucks down the walkways of that place. Like, it's enormous. It's crazy, and it's empty.
Probably the cost of building over there is a little less than the U.S.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah. So in the series of non sequiturs, Sean Dillon Kelly, what's the plan? I mean, he's done his break-in in Moto2. Now he kind of knows his way around the tracks, I guess.
I'm gonna
What's next?
answer that. I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen. One day, Sean Dillon Kelly is gonna step out of his trailer with the helmet already on, with the visor already closed, right? And they're just gonna go out there and they're gonna set a lap record, right? And they're gonna win the race, and then they're gonna go back to the trailer with their helmet still on, right? And it's gonna be Jeremy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that'd be a bit of a stretch. Yeah,
The Stig.
yeah. Dude, with Sean, man, that kid is he's amazingly sturdy mentally, and he knows he's got a lot to learn. And this year has put a beating on him. It's definitely put a beating on him, going from setting all the records we did last year, and having amazing year and amazing communication. It's put a beating on him, but he's got a 2-year deal. The kid's he's not backing down. He's not scared. But that's the crazy thing, that when you really look at numbers, it's a crazy thing that most of our motorcycle society and fans don't see. We're looking at free practice 2 this morning, and he's dead last. Looks bad. He's had a couple injuries this last couple rounds and some mechanicals. It's really hindered him. But then when you really look at it, you look at what his last place is. It's 1.7 seconds off the fastest guy. At any Moto America race, the pole sitter could be a second faster than the second place guy. We're not talking about, fourth, fifth, 10th, whatever. The whole Moto2 field will fit within 2 seconds. And, that's ridiculous. So that level is, the screws are so tight. And, in a placing and a finishing format, it doesn't look too good for him. But when you really look at the numbers and what he's up against and what he's accomplished this year, and him and Cam have done, it's pretty amazing. Because the America's team's a good team, but let's be honest, it's a midfield team. They got good equipment. They have good members there, but they're not the guys. And to finish where they're finishing is pretty good. So it's one of those where, back to that ego thing, as long as you can swallow that and focus on the goal here. And that's, I think, where me and Sean had the biggest connection working together, is I was able to take the pressure off him. Quit looking at everybody looking at you. They think you're the next guy. Stop that. I don't care about that. We're going out and we're going through everybody until there's nobody else there. And that's when you can relax. And that last year, that's exactly what he did. And then, so he's got the mentality for it. And so, I think you'll see a different Sean next year.
Yeah, the sign of a champion is they're just learning. They don't care. I mean, they'll just learn and improve, and just, tomorrow is going to be better than it is today, and that's all he needs to do to get ahead.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, it's a big change too, the whole environment and the bikes. And I mean, I think it took 3 years to Joe Roberts to get his first top 10.
Yeah.
And he changed teams, I think, to get there. So
yeah, and he's definitely on a good one.
Riding.
Definitely on a good one. Yeah, no, it's there. I mean, Sean's really good to where he can morph into his environment. So I don't, I think that's lucky to where that's not affecting him. Kind of like, can't say that for Cam. Cam is definitely a NorCal dude that loves his, his surroundings and family and stuff like that. Not that Sean doesn't, but it's a big portion of what Cam is. And that's, I think, why it was really hard for Cam to go any longer than he did. And that's why he's coming back, to where Sean, not only is he younger, I mean, he's barely 20, so he's got a while and he can handle that. But yeah, taking some more of this mental punching from the rest of that Moto2 field, I mean, it'll make you a man or it'll break you.
Did Cam already sign when I heard something about BMW, Tyler BMW?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's not official, but it's official.
How come he's not coming back to Yamaha?
It's because they got two bad dudes on Yamaha right now, and one of them I know has another year on his deal, and the other one obviously is going to get an extension because he just won the championship. So, I mean, I guarantee Yamaha would bring him back with open arms. But yeah, those details, it's just, the music stopped and there's only so many seats left.
I would just run a third bike, but that's just me.
Yeah, well, that Tyler's team has put in a pretty impressive first season, and there's the financial backing's ridiculous. But you bring a talent like Cam over, and a lot of things could change. So it'll be interesting to see for sure. And knowing a little bit on how that manufacture works, that could help. And it could hurt him depending on how Cam takes it. So, it'll be fun to watch. But I mean, nobody can deny that there's some real deal talent coming back.
Yeah, and if Petrucci comes in for another season, it's gonna be war.
No, it would be good, really good. Yeah, no, full year with Petrucci, and now that I think he's maybe swallowed a couple things that he was uncomfortable with, and it shows. And he's racing hard and good.
Yeah, second season, he's going to be used to all the tracks, used to how Moto America.
And information with that bike too. I think that's huge. I don't think that's an easy bike to race most of our U.S. tracks with. It's got a different perspective, and its design philosophy is way different. So that being said, now they've got a full year of data of what and what not to do. And I think that's going to be, Choo Choo is already a bad dude. That came in with a known, but that bike was still an unknown. And I think with that out of the equation, these guys are going to have a tough time with him next year.
He rode a bunch of. I mean, this weekend he's on a MotoGP Suzuki, right?
He's on the Suzuki, yeah. And then back to that whole thing about riding different stuff. I mean, that guy's been to car. I mean, he's amazing, and that's why I think he did so well. And maybe some of the prior attempts with these other high level guys didn't work out so well. That guy's way more dynamic and in different categories.
Yeah, and he's competitive. I mean, he's got the competitive spirit that comes comes from Italy. And stuff doesn't go his way, he starts yelling and cursing, and this is how I need it to work because I want to win.
Yep. No, gotta have that fire, man. Gotta have it.
Yeah. Okay, so now I have a bunch of questions about the Tuono factory that you prepared for Randy.
Yep.
What exactly did you do to that bike? How did you make it so fast on the mountain?
There was a lot of things we did, but it's surprising. That's a pretty nice bike out of the box. We worked with obviously the U.S. based Aprilia team here. When I say team, the actual factory, but they don't have a race category. It's basically a bunch of salesmen. So I had been, friends with Remy for a while, have some background with him, and he asked me to come on board and having some background there at Pikes. So basically, we just went through the bike, made it nice and safe for the mountain. Again, not over the top, proper brakes, proper suspension, nothing too crazy, and and then just went for it. And to be honest, it comes back to that relaying that information back to what that adjustment could be, as opposed to, maybe not understanding the surface versus an actual valve stack and a fork, or the actually power delivery. So I think we have a good connection to where the chassis was set up very well for what he needed. And what's funny, this is, I don't know if maybe should or should not be said, but the US based team, was full behind it, throwing everything they could at it, and still through electronics wise and engine management, that thing's locked like a vault. I was able to tune a handful of things to it and get it to work, and it worked pretty good, but it was not capable of full unleash. So we started it. We went through the week of practice and did pretty well. And then all of a sudden, Aprilia Italy noticed that we were knocking on the heels of Ducati. And this is no exaggeration. We were down on power from Monday to Thursday. They flew one of the head technicians over on Thursday. He came over with a full ECU. We downloaded, we talked about what type of TC and engine development and delivery is really what we worked on a ton, what I wanted to see. And basically with a ride of a little bit of a keyboard and a plug-in, that thing unleashed itself and was a different motorcycle. And that was a huge, huge part. But I'm telling you, it wasn't until we were able to protect this thing and start nipping at Ducati's heels that we got really love from the other side. So it was one of those to where it's like, you silly little Americans and your silly little race. And then all of a sudden, it's got a good little world view and we're on it. And that's when we got the help. So it was kind of a cool triumphant that, that was one of those weekends where it was one of the best weekends and possibly the worst weekends, obviously, with losing a close friend. Half and half there.
Yeah, it's part of the game. What do you think about them canceling the race because of it? You think they need to bring it back, or
at that, living in America, it's surprising that we even had that going on. And I had said it since the first day I went there, and just that we had that happening was impressive. The people that are handling it, let's just put them in the category of good old boys. They don't kind of see the same thing. But in their defense, they're dealing with insurance and, bad publicity. And I get it. It's the car thing brings a ton of people there. It is definitely a fascinating race in that perspective. But you would see it. You'd go to the fanfares and everybody's, they look at a couple cars and everybody wants to know about the bikes and that. Same with Macau. Macau is the same way. You've got, F3 and GT Cup and all this other stuff. And the biggest draw was always around the bikes. So with Pikes taking it away, I can't say that I'm not pissed about it because I am. It sucks, but I'm not surprised in the slightest. I'm surprised it lasted that long.
Yeah, pretty soon we're all going to be riding electric motorcycles.
That's it.
Capped at 20 miles an hour.
Between rolling blackouts, trying to charge them.
In between rolling blackouts, eating some,
fake
vegan
burger,
shake, and talking about our feelings. So it should be all good after this.
Yeah.
Yeah, get your crickets ready.
Yeah. It's coming. It's surprising. I mean, I don't think the road race side of things has really got that e-bike down. The motocross bikes are getting pretty decent though. So we'll see.
It's a grim future. I mean, one of my future cars is probably going to be electric, but I will get an electric motorcycle when the last drop of oil comes out of the ground in Saudi Arabia. And I will be the one to bid on it. So
we'll see. I'm waiting for that technology push. I mean, there's no way in hell that I'm doing anything anytime soon. But I'm a huge F1 fan, pretty much an F1 nerd, and seeing what they're doing with the hybrids and stuff like that now, it's amazing. But then I went to, I've gone to a couple F1 races and they're definitely not the same. I mean, that's not that intense because that sound wise, it's another level.
Yeah, they're coming to Vegas.
Yeah. They're what, 1.6 engines?
What's that?
There's no engines. I mean, they're electric assisted, but the gas engine is like a 1600 cc's, right?
Yeah, exactly. With two turbos. Yeah. One driving electric, one driving the motor.
There's only one thing that electric motors are good for, and that's for those wheelchairs that go up the stairs for old folks.
Yeah.
That's the only function I think that should be used at.
Yeah, been in a couple of those.
Yeah.
Which one is the supercar company? Was it Pagani or somebody who just said they just build their last fully gas car? Everything from now on is going to be hybrid or electric, and it's a big one. It's either the Pagani or Koenigsegg or it's not Ferrari obviously, but
I would doubt Koenigsegg, maybe Pagani, but even down to Ariel Adam now. I mean, Ariel Adam just came out with a full electric turbine generating system on one. So I mean, people are getting out of their minds. Yeah, that thing's amazing. Check that thing out.
It's a jet engine. Car. Yeah, a jet engine that powers an electric battery.
Yeah. They say that you drive around a full electric, but the jet engine is your generating system for the batteries. Amazing. What a concept.
It's like, come on, man. Just stop it. Just stop it.
Yeah, it's like the Teslas with the
you want to save the environment. You want to save the environment. Stop buying cars. Just fix your old cars. All right. If you're buying a new car, you already messed up the environment.
Yeah.
Or cycle a bit, or ride a motorcycle. They consume what, 1/10 of the gas of a big car.
Yeah. All right. I think we ran out of questions, unless there's any more questions. Nothing?
I think we covered pretty much. You've been very generous with your time, Jeremy. Thank you so much.
No sweat.
And this is the coolest hat anybody ever wore in our podcast.
Kind of fresh. You just got it last weekend.
I told him before we started recording, I have a Matt Mladen Suzuki hat that I got from Suzuki of Van Nuys when I bought my K6. So I still have that
nice.
somewhere. Yeah, it's 20 years
Yeah.
old.
Well, as you can guess, Gal bought a Suzuki, and we won't end up hearing about it.
Bought a Suzuki. Bought a few Suzukis.
One day he'll be riding it too when it's finished.
I bought a few Aprilias too. So nobody's perfect.
No, definitely. No, there's good and bad and all that for sure.
Yeah. All right, guys. This has been another episode of Edge Grip Podcast. Thank you all for listening with our special guest, Jeremy Toye, which for the next 4 to 6 weeks is faster than his neighbor. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you, guys.